I got crazy hair. It's oily. It was clean yesterday. I got a massage and she got that oil all in my hair and it felt divine to get a massage. So we accept it. I also got gifts. She gave me this necklace with a tiger eye. Keep me grounded and divinely surrounded. Also got this gift. This is tree here. Anyway, my name is Stacey Renee. I'm a mindset coach. I also call myself a life on life's terms coach, is because I'm trying to help us realize the things that maybe we felt inadequate about, that we don't have to feel inadequate about those things, that we just didn't learn those things. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with us. That we just have to learn things. And we can learn them the easy way or the hard way. And if you're like me, you might have learned the hard way. And that's why I coach and share these lessons with others, is because we may label ourselves and label somebody else due to learned behavior, and we don't have to, but we can. We can. So this morning, our topic is polarities. You know, a lot of us don't know and accept the polarities, is that, there's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on in the world, and it's part of this electromagnetic field, part of these polarities that I speak of, and there's nothing we can do to change it or control it on some things. All that we can do, the only change or control that we have is over ourselves. You know, sometimes people say in recovery, what's in your hula hoop? You know, just the sphere, your energy field around you. But you are important, whoever you are. You know, and that's what I come on here to do, because if I help one person by coming on here, then I'm very grateful. I apologize, I didn't get to make it Wednesday, and I haven't got my times right yet. With the time change, I knew that there was a move. You may notice that there is a different background behind me now. And that's because I moved, and I've been moving, and I don't have internet yet, so I'm riding the waves of data. So in the morning, it's easier for me to get on the 5Gs, 4Gs than it is the 3Gs. The 3Gs don't support me on these things. So being able to get on these waves. So I want to thank first, before I get started, I've got my notes here. Since I can't get in my Google Drive like I usually do to look at my notes, I have them actually written out right here that I want to cover today in this live. But before I do that, I want to thank all of you who have newly subscribed to this channel, and I do appreciate you, and thank you so much. And those who have subscribed in the past, and those that will subscribe in the future. Thank you for being a part of your healing journey, helping me to be a part of your healing journey. So we're going to look at, once again, something that we don't get to learn enough of unless it's scientifically and we relate it to out there. But what about in here? This living in this electromagnetic field, this life on life's terms field, that playing field. Sorry about that. I got my cough drops right here. With this moving, it clears up, it kicks up a lot of dust. It's been raining, a lot of mold. So the polarities, innocent and guilt, healing your inner child. So I want you to think about, as we're starting this, is how many of y'all have a fear of adults, or this contentment of adults, and not realizing where it comes from. It may come from childhood. So let's get into it. I hope that you'll like and subscribe once again if this resonates with you. So how innocence learns guilt. First, I want to look at that, talk about that, is how our innocence learns the guilt. Well, it can come from this time of year, or any time of year. It can be our father. Wait till your father gets home, or wait till your mother gets home, or whoever it is that, once you're in this perceived trouble, wait till your, some authoritarian figure gets home or sees you, And then there's Santa this time of year. Santa's watching you. So this gives us the idea that somebody's always watching us, right? And then there's God, of course, the vital life force, our source, our all, but I'm not here to preach. So whoever you perceive this electromagnetic field, this energy to be, is up to you. Because when I say I meet you where you're at, you don't have to be in my belief system or realm, because I get to learn from everyone. So what this does, though, is those entities of authoritarian persons, they energies or souls or what have you, whatever you want to call them, is it gives us guilt and judgment, punishment, right? Punishment, the perceived idea. So what this does is it tells us that we have, conditional love, not unconditional love, but conditional love. As long as you behave, you got to be good. There's good and bad in the children's polarities. So this, for the, and it affects our adult nervous system, whether we believe it or not. And so what it develops is our children's perceptions. As our children's perceptions develop, what we learn is good or bad, safe or dangerous, or loved or rejected. It's that simple, right? So what this has is it gives us this guilt of the black and white thinking, or of the polar thinking. And we don't realize that these are polarities, the negative and positive. And even if you are a Christian or what have you, and the prayer of St. Francis, it talks about this, to be understand rather than be understood, to be, the prayer of St. Francis. I have to sing it to know it. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's, all these things. So it's been taught, it's been, said spiritually. We just weren't taught mentally, educationally, which our mental and emotional affect our central nervous system. So we have the fear of making mistakes then, which develops perfectionism. So we will beat ourselves up if we're not perfect in that fear of making mistakes. We will assume, because we don't know. Sometimes when we get in trouble and we don't realize we're going to get in trouble for something, sometimes kids are just being kids and they get in trouble. Sometimes kids really do need to get in trouble for something when they're kids and they don't. So this, sometimes if you have a parent who's addictive or has mental illness, this may be a part of it. And or a parent who's not healed from their own wounds, because they didn't have the resources we have. So again, we don't blame. That's what we're getting to learn now. But our parents didn't get to learn that. They may have been blamed, and so therefore they may have blamed us. I know I was blamed for some things. I had a lot of control according to one of my parents. Well, I had a lot of control according to both, actually. One gave me their power and the other one called me names for, so I'm not blaming them though, because I love them. And we developed a relationship. See, this is the thing, is I got to develop a relationship later based on my terms rather than how things were. So we become hyper vigilant to authority and struggle with trust and intimacy when this is a part of, when this happens. So, when we think about that, then we understand why we keep picking the same things, same people, same circumstances, maybe different characters. We're going to get into that later. So the pattern doesn't disappear. It just changes form, shows up in relationships and addictions. A lot of times the simplest is food. So the holidays doesn't help any, right? So in the holidays, the food and transference of addiction to alcohol and drugs, reversed food, restricting, and then also overeating or obsession. And, I just want you to know that that's not failure. That's information. That if we can be conscious of this happening, because a lot of times we're not conscious, we just accept that this is who we are, rather than learning a different kind of acceptance on the polar field. This is the learned acceptance. So food often becomes the safest place for the inner child to regulate the feelings that were never taught how to be felt. You may feel, when you're getting anxious, you may think, I'm hungry, but you're not hungry, but your brain has been tricked that way. The same with people who are addicted to pain meds. Is when they start to feel pain, mental or emotional pain, the same thing, then they may manifest physical pain in their body. And so this is the way that we do, is when we pay attention to the words that we're saying or thinking, then that becomes consciousness. But a lot of times as children, our thoughts and feelings have been dismissed, so we dismiss our own. This is a learned behavior. Being an adult, adultism is about learning to cake for breakfast, okay? All right. Well, I don't know why it pops up with these, but nobody else is talking. So cake for breakfast is okay sometimes, not every day. Okay? Especially when I'm talking about food addiction, right? So that sugar, sugar and alcohol addiction are closely close. I didn't know this. When I got sober, I learned that I craved sugar, and I didn't realize how much sugar alcohol had in it. So anyway, heading back now to the belief systems, the things that are going to heal us is that our belief systems, our belief systems can make or break us. And so when we get to the core, the belief system is at our core. This is what we claim is who we are and what everything else outside of us is. So loving rather than condemning ourselves in our belief system, a power greater than ourselves. We get to create that ourselves because it's your own personal relationship. That's why I say, whoever you believe, whatever you believe, it doesn't matter to me because I have my own personal relationship with my higher power. And, we get to make or break those belief systems. What are you giving your power to? Whatever's the first thing that you think about in the morning. And we don't even realize that. The first thing you think about at night, which typically a lot of us will say our children. I know it was for me for a long time, but our children will grow up. Our children, may pass before us. Our children will do what they're going to do. I know before I had children, I thought, when I have children, they're going to be like this, this, and this, because they were already going to be healed from my pain. But then when I had children, and the reality of life on life's terms set in, the Rumi poem, about children, is they come from me, but they are not me. I got to say, you're going to do what? So our belief systems, loving rather than condemning. A lot of us were taught in our churches that we were going to be condemned. So our central nervous system was looking to be condemned. That's why I don't tell anybody who their power greater than their self has to be, because I know some have been harmed by the belief systems maybe. And some people resist a belief system and a power greater than themselves. But the reality is you get to have that relationship with yourself. You don't have to have a church tell you. You can, but you don't have to have a church tell you how to have a power greater than yourself. It's this belief systems. We're going to believe in something. We all, as human beings, believe in different things, whether it's power greater than ourselves, but we believe. We may believe we're inadequate. But that's not true. That's not necessarily true. You may feel inadequate. I'm not going to devalue your feelings. You may feel, good morning, Miriam. Namaste to you. I'm not going to invalidate anybody's feelings. Feelings aren't facts, but feelings deserve to be validated. Because feeling is healing, y'all. And we can't heal unless we feel it. And a lot of us were taught, if you cry, I'm going to give you something to cry about. And crying is healthy. Crying is healthy. Good morning. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you for being here this morning. Where are you joining from? So I've been talking about the polarities, and I've been talking about, the inner child and healing, and the perceived thoughts that we get is that, when I go back and look at the notes, and everything, I thank you all who have subscribed to me recently and who've subscribed to me in the past and will subscribe in the future. And right now I don't have internet, so I'm running on data. So I don't have a consistent time. Let's hope that I get internet today, because this is the data. And right now where I'm at, doesn't seem like many people are on it. So I actually have enough data to be here. So I'm so grateful to get to be here with y'all. So talking about the polarities and the innocence and guilt. a lot of us will just perceive people as innocent or guilty. There's nothing in between. We're human beings, y'all. We're human beings is what I'm trying to get at. That's what this channel is about, is healing and being human, feeling comfortable in our own skin from within. So I talked about how innocence was learned, and learns guilt is that sometimes it's the threat of when your father gets home. Sometimes it's Santa Claus is watching. Sometimes it's God. And then what this does is it affects our central nervous system, but it also affects our authority, dealing with authority, is this fear of authority, this fear of other adults. And this, just because we get grown doesn't mean our central nervous system says, oh, we're all adults now. We can just learn how to get along and learn how to do this. Actually, adulting is unlearning a lot of the things that we thought so that we can become our own autonomous selves. And so I talked about, the nervous system. I talked about our perceptions as children, good or bad, safe or dangerous, loved or, rejected. I talked about guilt with the polar thinking, black and white, or, this good or bad or what have you, that assuming that we learn the fear of making mistakes, that we become, perfectionist or try to be perfectionist and won't do anything if we can't do it perfect. This fear of not being perfect, and then assuming, blaming quickly because maybe we felt blamed. I know I was blamed for things as a child, and teenager and everything else. And I had to learn to have a relationship with myself rather than the belief systems and perceptions upon me. So this may have made us, like I said, to be hypervigilant to authority, struggle with trust and intimacy. So the pattern doesn't disappear, it changes form. It shows up in relationships. It can't even show up in their relationship with food, because that's the safest place for people to try to regulate themselves, is that when they feel anxious or nervous, they may think they're hungry. They learn to reach for something outside of themselves, and it's in the physical. Consciousness is about understanding ourselves mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and even financially. Learning that we are good enough. So the holidays and food and transference of addiction to drugs and alcohol. I talked about this, and that food becomes the safest place. I just said that. So now we're on to this part where the belief systems, and I talked about the power greater than ourselves, and I don't help you define that. You get to establish that yourself, because like I said, some people have that fear of authoritism, and that may be God. It's God's self. I know that I worked with many people in addiction. That is the fear, is this shame and guilt that was learned. It's learned. So you have to unlearn that to know what you are indeed truly guilty of and not guilty of, because some of it may have been projected onto you. You might have been blamed as a child, and it's not yours, but it has affected your central nervous system, even if your mind knows that you're not at fault. Your central nervous system is still trying to keep from feeling that feeling. Okay? So healing the story from victim to villain and being our own author is that to be our own author, to write our own story, to unlearn those behaviors, we have to look at what happened. What happened? I'm not a failure. So what happened? Because I'm living and breathing. I have a purpose and I'm not worthless. You see? So where did it happen? It's not, again, to go back and blame. It's to get to know ourselves and to change our story to what we want, rather than trying to create from what we're trying to fight from, what we're trying to defend that we're not. Because somewhere in our belief system, we're running off that energy rather than a healed energy. So how did it shape us? What is happening in my life? What's happening in my life is a reflection of what I believed. I'm not saying you can control everything. Different people and their belief systems have different wills. I've talked about one of the things I learned in codependency was my will, God's will, and somebody else's will. And I had to learn I could not take control of anybody else's will and God's. But God's will wasn't for me to be punished. I punished myself with my own beliefs. So, how did it shape us and why we adapted the way that we did? This is how we write our own story. So, you're not, you are not the unconscious, insufficient, distorted, inadequate self that you may claim or believe that you are. You are not. You're not a title that you give yourself like that. You are not. You may feel that way. Like I said, feelings aren't facts, but they deserve to be validated. Yes, a parrot. It's a little Quaker parrot. And we just moved, and he did pluck more. He does pluck because when I took travels, before, he learned to pluck and he likes it. So, I want, you all to know that you can change your belief system till you are good enough. You just didn't know. So, how do we do this so we can grow, right? Is that we're all going to experience grief. You see, grief is feeling your feelings. It's not if you cry, you're going to get something to cry about. Grief is feeling your feelings, and sometimes we cry. Sometimes we cry just to let off pressure when we try to be perfect or when we try to make things perfect and they don't turn out perfect. We cry and forgive ourselves that it wasn't perfect. Okay? Grief isn't weakness, it's honesty. It's getting honest with ourselves, not trying to defend anything, anyone, especially ourselves. It's not trying to, do those things, because once you know, you know. But if you didn't know, then forgive yourself for not knowing. That's all. That's all. That's what part of growing is. And I want you to know when we talk about forgiveness, forgiveness isn't continued exposure to hurt, to feeling, to being hurt. And compassion doesn't require self-betrayal. So you can have forgiveness and compassion and not subject yourself to the same experiences. Because you may change, but other people may not. And those people might have been a catalyst for your growth. And it's okay to release them with love. That's the best way. And it calls for acceptance. Acceptance also that this is just what that person does. And is it aligned with me? So I want you all to think about that, is to empower yourself instead of giving our power to someone else, and to heal what hurts. What hurts. To acknowledge that pain within ourselves, that it's not you that you're any less than, it's just pain. It's just old worn out thoughts or beliefs that no longer serve you. It's just that you didn't learn that, and you're learning. And so we get to unlearn those belief systems that we learned that don't serve us anymore. So as we do the breathing, I want you to think about, what was it that you learned that you took on way too much of? Because in those belief systems in the polarities, we go either one way or the other. And what way promotes which? Sometimes when things are good, we can be arrogant and unteachable. And when things are bad, sometimes we are, more humble. This is why some of the prayers that you may hear, is humility, because we're more willing to ask for help when we are feeling like we're defeated. But defeated doesn't define us. And this is what I want you to know today as we go into the weekend, is that feeling your defeat doesn't define you, and to quit accepting the definition of your defeat. Of, when we feel defeated, we may feel like a failure. We may title ourselves all these different things. We may beat ourselves up. We don't need to beat ourselves up to heal. We can say, oh, look at this inner child. We wouldn't talk to our own children that way if they were feeling these feelings, if you have children, and if not, if you could reparent yourselves, what would you say to yourselves? That's all we have to do, is to remember that you were born just fine and divine, and that there's nothing you have to prove to anybody to deserve being seen and heard here. Nothing you have to prove. It's just learning to hear and see yourself. We might have been taught otherwise, that's all. And to give our power to other people, thinking that if they see and hear us, then we are accepted. But it's accepting ourselves. That's where self-esteem is, self-worth, self-awareness, and self-trust. So if you need help in any of these areas, I am a mindset coach. And, you can email me at Stacey, Stacey, Reinick, Reineck, at gmail.com. But if not, I hope this video has been helpful because not everybody can afford a coach right now. And I want you to have some information to help you, because if I help one person with these videos that I do, that's good enough, because one person helps another person, helps another person, who helps another person. And this is humanity, y'all. This is how we accept our own humanness. And that's my desire, is for us to be able to just love ourselves. And when we love ourselves, we can love one another. And sometimes that love requires releasing with love, not staying stuck. Okay? So I want you to breathe in your innocence and release any perceived guilt, because when you think about it, most of us just accept this guilt. We worry, we say, I'm sorry, we apologize when we haven't done anything wrong. And our inner child just learned to do that so we wouldn't be in trouble, right? So sometimes we're just apologizing all the time, not realizing what we're saying, that there may be a fear underneath there. There may not be, but it's just a dialogue. And what we say is very important. So I want you to learn not to beat yourself up. I got a cough drop in my mouth because I've been moving. And it kicks up dust. It kicks up mold because it's been raining too. So we're going to do some breathing now, okay? So if you'll breathe with me, we're going to breathe in our innocence. And that's the thing about when your body keeps a score, is you fill up. As a kid, we were joy-filled. We didn't worry about being perfect. We knew we already were, that we're human. We were born human beings, and we are perfectly imperfect. Life is about learning from our mistakes, not trying to cover them up, not trying to defend them, not trying to feel like we're in trouble. We all make mistakes, and we all have the potential to learn and to be more than we were before. But not saying who we were before was bad. It's saying that we're all meant to evolve. That when we achieve one goal, of course there's going to be another goal. It's not that the one goal we achieved wasn't good enough, because if we're achieving it and we're learning that we're not failures, that we just have to recalibrate, then we get to learn how to stimulate ourselves that, oh, I did this, now I can do something else. That builds the esteem. So I want you to breathe that in, these experiences, these opportunities, because we're going to be into Christmas this time next week if you celebrate. And if not, we're still going to be into this time next week. And regardless, we're going to go into a new year. We're going into a new year. And being conscious and aware of what we want to create, what we want to heal so that we can create. And it does involve our belief system. So let's believe that you're great. Let's believe that you're innocent. Let's take a deep breath in. Hold it and feel that feeling of being childlike. And release. Release childishness. Childishness is punishing ourselves and trying to punish other adults. That's not cool. Breathe in. Hold it. What do you want to feel? And release anything that tells you you're not worthy. Fears and doubts. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. This is regulating your nervous system so that you can think clearly and regenerate your cells, your neural pathways to think something else. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Last one. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I appreciate you. And I thank you for watching now or watching later, whenever you watch. I hope that this is helpful. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I should be back on track hopefully next week. Thank you so much. Breathe, darling. Bye.